I'm Pat Harbeson, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber. Sidearm whip, scores! Now with one, Fidel scores! Hands off for Rabel, switches hands and scores!
Carly O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson!
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam. Together we're bringing you interviews with your favorite players and coaches, as well as news from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. We're here with Pat Harbeson, 2011 NCAA National Champion with UVA, MLL Champion with the Ohio Machine, and current midfielder with the Redwoods in the PLL. Pat, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
No, we appreciate you coming on. You're actually the 4th member of the UVA 2011 NCAA National Championship team we're talking to. We've talked to a few of your teammates in Steele Stanwyck and Mark Cockerton, as well as your coach, Dom Starsia. So we got a little bit of a thing going with former Virginia lacrosse players, so we want to keep that going strong.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And Virginia just got a big win tonight over High Point, so we'll keep the good times rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess let's start off a little bit with that. How do you think the boys look this season? I mean, obviously they're coming off the NCAA Championship last season. You think they can repeat?
I think definitely so. I mean, the college lacrosse scale all across, I mean, there's so many talented teams, and you're seeing some schools pop up. High Point, for example, being a good team and beating Virginia last year. Giving Virginia a run for their money this year. But I think it's an open race. Obviously, you have Penn State, Virginia, Yale, Maryland still up there, but kind of to go off what Duke does, you can't judge a team in February because, some teams are just going to get better and, unforeseeable injuries or circumstances might pop up along the ways as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's a long season. They looked good tonight. They pulled out that victory against High Point. But I want to go back a little bit. We're going to talk about your championship win with UVA. But before we do, I want to go back a little bit farther and talk me through when you first began your lacrosse career, and tell me when you first started playing and what drew you to the sport initially.
Yeah, for sure. My lacrosse story is I always laugh when I tell it. So I come from a military background, and I lived in Japan actually when I was in 2nd and 3rd grade. So I had no idea what lacrosse was, but I loved football. I think it was probably around the time where Remember the Titans came out, and I just remember all I wanted to do was play football. I would beg my parents every single day. My cousins played football. I wanted to be just like them. So we moved back to the States, and we were living in Alexandria, Virginia, and Dad was like, we're going to put this kid in some contact sport. So, he kind of lied to me. He was like, all right, you're going to play lacrosse this spring. And I was like, I have no idea what lacrosse is. And he just said, it's just like football. So don't worry. And I was like, if it's just like football, I'm all aboard. So the first day of tryouts or whatever it is for 4th or 5th graders, I showed up in a Jacksonville Jaguars Mark Brunell jersey, and I immediately was outcasted. I was the only kid in a football jersey. I remember the day before, maybe going to practice, my brother and I looking at ourselves in the mirror, getting in 3-point stances, sitting in a linebacker stance, thinking that we're just going to go out there and just be able to catch a football and hit each other. So it was kind of a humbling start, but it was the best thing I think I've ever done in my life, and so happy that my parents put us in lacrosse, and just to see where it's taken me today is amazing.
That's awesome. That's a funny story, and I think it kind of shows too how we still got a little bit of ways to go with getting the game exposure level, but it's also anyone can play the sport. You came from a football background. You have players coming from basketball backgrounds, kind of all over. It's kind of takes a lot of different skill sets, and I think that's kind of important. That's why I love the game, and I'm sure that's why you kind of like it too.
For sure. I mean, just to talk about Dom, he recruited 2 sport athletes. He'd always say always want Division I double lacrosse players, or you see the evolution of the game with Pat Spencer's and those college kids right now that are seniors and going to use their 5th year elsewhere to explore opportunities or take advantage of it. So yeah, no,
for sure. And following your youth days, you went to DeMatha Catholic. You have some alma mater and 3 other PLL players in Johnny Surdick, Grayson Train, and of course Paul Rabel. But how did your game kind of develop when you were at DeMatha?
Honestly, I think my game kind of transcended when I was in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. A youth coach by the name Bob Bohannon, and he really was the one that, extracted the love of lacrosse out of me. It was, that's where I think my playing style I always kind of relate back to, but the finer tuned skills and attributes were definitely developed in high school, and we're mostly known for basketball and football. The basketball team actually just won their 40th basketball championship last night, and we have all the pros inside of that come from the school. From you look at Victor Oladipo, Rodney, who's in the NBA, Rodney McLeod, Markel Fultz. As much as I gained by going to DeMatha athletically, just the preparation for college and the maturation process was really kind of developed in those formative years at DeMatha. So couldn't thank them enough for everything that they've given me.
No, that's awesome. And it took you down to Charlottesville, and you played under Coach Starsia. You mentioned, Coach Starsia a little bit. But what kind of drew you to play for Dom, at UVA?
Honestly, during the whole recruiting process, before the letters even came out, I had no idea kind of what type of player I was. I didn't know if I was a recruitable player. The summer going into my junior year, I legit went to lax.com and hit every single Division I school and went to their website, found the coach's email, and just sent my generic email out to every single Division I school. I just wanted to play Division I at the highest level possible. And it's funny. I remember it was a week before my birthday. I think Coach Starsia had a UVA team camp, and it was late August, so it was after all the recruiting stuff kind of died down. And my dad was like, "Hey, let's go to the team camp." I played for the Baltimore Crabs. They were taking a team down there. It was kind of like a group of rising juniors and rising seniors down there, and I was like, I'm so lacrosse out, I don't want to do it. And he was just like, let's just do it. And luckily we went down there. We had a great experience, and it was kind of where some of the best lacrosse that I played at occurred. And I was fortunate that it was in front of Mark Van Arsdale, John Walker, and Coach Starsia. And Coach came up to me before the last game, and was just like, "Hey, Patrick, you played great this weekend. You'll be hearing from us." And I had no idea what that meant. I was just like, "You'll be hearing from us." I was like, "Cool." So throughout the whole recruiting process, Virginia was the first school to call, first school to email, would send the daily letters. But this time I was like, "Am I good enough to go play at Virginia?" And there was a little bit of a doubt in mind, but I ended up deciding between Virginia, Maryland, and love for my hometown and love for my home state. But going to Virginia and being a part of Coach Starsia's teams and made some great friends and received a great degree and played with some unbelievable teams. So could have been a better experience.
Yeah, no, and you played on that championship team your freshman year. I mean, what was that like, winning a championship in your first season with UVA?
It set the bar pretty high. I'm not gonna lie. Winning at your freshman year, you're like, dang, this is how it's gonna be. Hopefully three more. But that was just a special season. Obviously, there's circumstances that happened before I got there, and then there's some issues that arise when I was there with the Bratton brothers. But it was an unbelievable ride. I'm actually reading Coach's book right now. His book, I hope you will be very happy, and him recapping some of the memories of that season. It's just kind of reliving it, and it just brings back so many great memories. Obviously, again, there was some instances that happened, but we kind of just came together as a team and really rallied behind it. And thankfully, we had great leaders in Bray Malfris, John Haldy, and Steele Stanwyck, Adam Gilman, and those guys are kind of, I think, who deserve the most credit for riding the ship the right way and getting us back on track and kind of having that never back down or never die mentality, and being able to be down to Bucknell late in the fourth quarter to winning in overtime with Matt White hitting the game winner, and then going to Long Island and beating Cornell to Clint Kessnick kind of calling us out on the internet, saying the only thing that's going to beat Denver is the Heat, and then beating Maryland in the national championship. It was an unbelievable experience. Again, winning it as a freshman, the standards were set high, and unfortunately we couldn't get it back to the championship weekend. But I'll never trade any of my wins, losses, practices on Saturday or Sunday mornings for anything, for it all to come full circle was just a really, really special moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. But let's move on a little bit from your college career. You actually went undrafted in the MLL, and I know that kind of, I read some articles on that, kind of really kind of put a chip on your shoulder, and you felt the need to prove yourself. And you were able, I think, get in with the Outlaws in a supplemental draft, and then eventually had a stint with the Bayhawks before finally joining the Ohio Machine, where you eventually won the 2017 MLL Championship. So just tell me what it was like having to prove yourself, after going undrafted, and the feeling of going from being an undrafted player to MLL champion.
Yeah, I think honestly, just through maturing a little bit over the years, I look back at my career at Virginia, I played in majority of the games. I think I was, an asset onto the team, but, in order to be drafted, hindsight looking back now, it's just maybe I didn't have all the accolades, statistics, measurements that would make me a draftable player. But at the same time, I still wanted to play, and, sitting out that summer and seeing my peers who got drafted, play, I'm like, I can do this. And I remember Coach Seaman called Tony Seaman, and he's like, hey, we're interested in you. Can you just let me know, have other teams contacted you? And, I kind of put my agent cap on, and I was like, yeah, I've heard from a couple teams. And the reality is I hadn't heard from anyone, but, I wasn't going to let that deter them from picking me up. And, I was fortunate enough to get drafted, and I think it was getting picked up in that supplemental to the Outlaws was the best thing for me, because they had a bunch of their Canadian players still playing in the indoor league. So, there was, room for offensive players to step in and play right away, which I did for the first, I think 6 games until all the Canadian guys kind of came back. But, you talk about just the chip on your shoulder, that's kind of my MO, kind of what I carry. It's, there's some things that I can't control, but, at the same time, being undrafted or, getting released by the Outlaws, and then being fortunate enough to get picked up by the Bayhawks, being one of the smaller guys in stature in the league, especially in the PLL now, man. I know we're kind of getting off topic, but every single guy is so good that if you don't bring it every single play, you're going to get exposed. So, kind of just being prepared mentally and physically to step onto the field. And, for me, having that chip on my shoulder, I've never necessarily been one of the more marketable players. I said it in that interview before with you guys that I'm not used in any marketing promotions. I'm not used for any clips, but that doesn't mean I'm not a good player. And again, maybe it's a little chip that I can just add to the fire, but I often kind of think I'm a little bit forgotten about, and that's perfectly fine. I'm kind of over those days where it's, trying to make it into the highlight reel. It's more about just going out there, playing very physical, doing my job, and trying not to do too much, on the field. Just let my game kind of speak for itself, and then continue to just play hard.
I think you hit too on your mentality a little bit, but I do want to say you are getting noticed. Obviously me and Dan know how good of a player you are, and I think now we're starting to see the importance of the midi that can play both ways in the PLL, just because of the shortened field and stuff. But I guess walk me through. I think you hit on something kind of important. You said you're not the biggest guy out there. So you have to do a little bit more preparation to kind of, make sure you don't get beat by some of these, star players that you face, especially on defensive midi. What is your preparation going into game day, and kind of, how has it been this off season, kind of preparing, for 2020?
Yeah, so game day is just mostly just, we watch film as a team. Last year, coaches broke down film, so we had those clips available to us, and the PLL did a great job of providing us, every game. So, we could break it down ourselves, which a lot of the Redwoods players did. And then, watching film with Coach Nat, to Nat's elaborate, scouting reports were very helpful. But, I think the most important thing, at the defensive midfield position, is just kind of the mindset. Obviously, having the film is going to help with tendencies and whatnot, but again, that mindset that, it's kind of mano-a-mano. For me, it's, I love when guys on other teams oh, we got 40, we got our matchup, dodge. So, that stuff kind of fires me up. It's all right, let's go. it's almost like boxing in an aspect. It's you versus the other guy. Obviously, you know, team defense is important too, but you know, when you're getting dodged on one-on-one from all over the field, it's, you know, kind of taking pride in owning that matchup, you know, not giving top side, not getting beat, rolled back, kind of just that mentality and having a mindset that, you know, you're the best player out there. You know, this guy, you know, he's a very good player too, but you're willing to bet on yourself on the matchup. So.
No, that's great, and I think that's kind of, you know, the mindset everyone should take into it. But it's nice to kind of get that perspective because you know, I played attack in high school and then a little bit of attack in college. But I remember they ran me when I was a freshman. They ran me a little bit at D-Midi just because, you know, I wasn't one of the top guys to play on attack, and I really wasn't going to see that much offensive midi time. And I just remember how challenging it was. It's, you know, I think people take for granted what it takes to really be, you know, a defensive midi, especially specialized in that position. And I don't know, it's nice to kind of hear from, you know, a short stick defensive midi like yourself on what you kind of do to prepare each day in, day out.
You know, again, I think it's mostly just a mindset and, you know, just, you know, understanding that you're going to be dodged on and being, you know, accepting that and accepting the matchup and trying to take ownership of it. So, you know, I've been playing defensive midfielder now for the past couple of years in professional lacrosse. Actually, I alluded to it before, but when I initially started, I played offensive. I played midfield for the Outlaws. So, you know, I came in as an offensive midfielder. I remember like my first defensive shift was against actually Brent Adams. We were playing Boston, and like I remember Jesse Schwartzman was our goalie. He's like, "All right, go press out," and I'm like, I go to try to step up to Brent, and Brent like runs right down the alley and shoots it. And I was like, this dude is the fastest guy I've ever seen in my life. So, you know, it took me a while to get used to professional lacrosse, the speed, and being comfortable at the defensive end of the field. But, you know, I take pride in it now. You know, honestly, like I'll do whatever the team needs. I know I joke around with Nat and goof off sometimes by grabbing a long pole and playing man down for scouts, but you know, I'll do whatever, you know, take a face off if one of our face off guys has a win or how to push offense to help us out. So I'm just happy I have some sort of a role and you know, with the PLL in a roster and adding, you know, adding teams that, you know, it's a challenge. I alluded to it before, like regardless if I got picked up by the Water Dogs or you know, going back to the Redwoods, it's still going to be a challenge to make those rosters with how talented people are, with how talented the F will be, with how talented the rookies are coming into the league. Like, you know, I don't think anyone's spot's necessarily safe, and it's just about, you know, coming to work, being prepared. And, you know, we had a call tonight. There's 93 days left in the off season. So, you know, making every single day count. So that come training camp, you're just in the best shape of your life and ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you touched on, too, your relationship with Coach St. Laurent a little bit. And, you know, he was your defensive coordinator with the Ohio Machine when you guys won that championship. And now, you know, he's your head coach with the Redwoods. How's your relationship with him kind of grown over the years? And how has he kind of helped you in your career?
Yeah, I love Coach Nat. So when I first went to training camp with Ohio, when I got picked up by them, I was in pretty bad shape, and you know, thankfully Nat and Coach Davis, they knew what I was capable of, and I just told them, hey, give me a shot, I'm gonna get back in shape, and I ended up playing the rest of the season. But you know, having the relationship with Nat from Ohio to, you know, him being our head coach now, you know, I know what he expects out of me and expects out of the entire team. You know, the first couple of days of training camp, you know, just telling the guys, hey boys, you better buckle your chin strap. Coach is going to call you out. Like, you know, I know his expectations. So, and now everyone else on the Redwoods does too. So, you know, I think year two will be, you know, you're going to see us hopefully take more strides. But, you know, Coach is a true, like, kind of player's coach. You know, he can be a hard ass, but, you know, I think every player, if you're complaining that Coach is riding you, like, then, you know, being at this level shouldn't be for you. So I love it when Coach, you know, kind of gets on us. He knows how to, you know, he knows how to get under our skins a little bit to motivate us and knows exactly what to say or, you know, how to say it. So I think our relationship has grown too. I think it's become more transparent, just over the years, and, the difficult decisions with who to retain and why he's retaining certain guys, just him being able to be, fully transparent, and me being able to be fully transparent without it hurting us, so-and-so's feelings, or without it, ruining our relationship. I just think that's kind of where we've grown, mostly over the past, 3-4 years.
No, that's awesome. And he seems like, he's been a good role model and influence on you, and you kind of got into your coaching yourself now. You're with Arizona State, the women's team. When did you start coaching, and what kind of led to your decision to kind of get into the coaching game?
Yeah, so I live out in Arizona. I live in Scottsdale. ASU is located in Tempe, which is probably 10 minutes away from where I live. Last summer, towards the end of the PLL season, my lease was up at my apartment, and my roommate was moving back home, and I saw that ASU's had announced a new head coach, Tim McCormick, who came from Northwestern, and prior to that played lacrosse at UMass, was moving out here. I shot him like a message. I had no idea who he was. Only I saw on like Twitter or Instagram that Will Manny was friends with him. Makes sense because they're UMass guys. But I was like, hey man, I don't know if you're looking for an apartment, but I'd love to, be roommates. There's not many lacrosse guys in Arizona, so I thought the synergy would be there. And he was like, oh, I have a wife and kid, and I was like, all right, scratch that. I was like, who's going to be on your staff? And he mentioned Nicole Graziano from Florida, All-American there, and then Dorian Van Dyke, an All-American at Stony Brook, where it was joining his staff. And I was like, I'll just reach out to them. So the three of us ended up living together, and I was like, hey guys, can I come out to practice? And so I came to practice one day. I've never really seen girls lacrosse. I still played at Syracuse, but it was just fun to me. But they were like, hey, would you want to be on staff and like be our volunteer assistant and come out whenever you can make it? So I feel bad. There's some days that I don't make it out. I try to make it out there at least once or twice a week, but it's super cool. I love the girls game, honestly. Like if I was to jump into coaching, I would strongly consider the women's game. I think like when I'm coaching some of the girls on our team, like they fully listen. They're trying to be as adaptive to what I'm bringing to them. It's really cool to see like them try some of this stuff that works in the guy game and try to bring it into their game as well. So it's been a great experience. Tim's unbelievable. ASU wise, like the school sells it's in virtually paradise. It's the weather's great all year around, and living with Nicole and Dorian and coaching with them has been a great experience as well. So I'm fortunate enough to find myself in the coaching game. I just wish I could get out there a couple more days a week to to be an asset for the coaching staff and the girls. So
yeah, no, but that's awesome. And yeah, I feel the same way. I kind of didn't really pay attention to the women's game too much in high school and college. And since me and Adam have been covering, Adam's actually wife played in college as well, and he's always kind of been into the women's game a lot more than I have, and I've kind of just slowly starting to get into it. But it's such a fast game. This isn't a disservice to the men's game at all, but it's way faster, and I think more people kind of need to be exposed to it because it's a different game than the men's, but I think it's unique in its own right and just as entertaining in my mind. So we've really enjoyed talking to a lot of the women athletes that we cover in the WPLL, and we're hoping to get more on in the future. But yeah, I think that's another sport that's really kind of starting to take off because even though it is the women's version of lacrosse, it's kind of different in its own right, and I think for a good reason too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's different in its own right. It has its own exciting moments. It's super fun. I actually practice with the girls, so that's like kind of like part of my off-season training is the 2 days that I get out there. I kind of quote unquote suit up. There's not really much that we're putting on besides goggles. I don't wear goggles, but I just put a reversible on the cleats. I have a girl stick, and I just run up and down the field. It's a blast. I mean, it's got me in such better shape. It's like you said. Actually, the field's longer, so it's more running, and like you said, it's fast paced. So there's very little stop and start.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You actually got to try on the WPLL uniform too a little bit for Halloween. I love that Halloween costume you did, the swap there. What gave you guys the idea to do that?
Honestly, we were just going out like one night. It was kind of like a low key night, but it was like either at Halloween or the day after, and we were like, we can't go out without a costume. And we were just like, let's just swap jerseys. Nicole didn't want to do it at all. I was like, I kind of pushed for it a little bit more. So, it was all fun games. So people were wondering that when we were out there, like, what sport is that? And lacrosse. So trying to the Arizona natives, trying to explain what was going on with lacrosse, what it is, and teaching them. At first, they thought I was wearing like a Cam Newton jersey and whatnot, but had to introduce them to the WPLL.
Yeah, no, awesome way to grow the brand of the PLL and the WPLL. So that's great. But yeah, this has been great so far, Pat. We're gonna take a quick break. Hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll get back into it and do our 5 and 5 segment.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. We've been using Anchor for our podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast so it sounds great and send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Better yet, they connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're interested in starting a podcast, download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today. All right, so welcome back. Let's dive into this 5 and 5 segment. So I'm going to ask you 5 lacrosse questions. They're supposed to be a little bit more fun answers, kind of quick answers too. And then after that, I'll ask you 5 off-the-field questions, more about like what you do, outside of lacrosse. But the first one I do for the lacrosse, what is one of the top songs on your game day or workout playlist right now?
I'm a big Drake fan, so kind of anything Drake. I would say off his last album, Nonstop. Some of his older songs, Back to Back. I like Eminem, so like old school wise, Lose Yourself, Till I Collapse, 50 Cent in the Game, Hate It or Love It. So I gotta kind of have more older songs on there, but anything really in the headset kind of gets me fired up and energizes me to keep pushing.
No, that's awesome. I like it. Eminem's a staple in my workout playlist. You got to have a little bit of Eminem. I have some Drake on there too. Yeah. Number 2, who do you think the Woods' biggest rival is in the PLL right now?
I personally don't really have any rivals. I would say if you asked me that like a year or two ago, and I think the person would say the same thing, it would be like Nick Ocello or maybe Matt Kavanaugh. We just always used to get into it whenever we would play. Mm-hmm. Team wise, I'm also super glad that they're on my team now. But team wise, I don't really know if we have a rival per se. It's only the inaugural year, but losing to the Whip Snakes stung, and hopefully getting another crack at suiting up this season and playing with the Redwoods, and being able to play against the Whip Snakes again. For sure, I would love to compete against them. So if I had to choose, I would say the Whip Snakes.
Awesome. Yeah, no, we're looking forward to that rematch whenever it comes this season. Number 3, who is your favorite lacrosse personality on social media right now?
So an under the radar guy, if you guys haven't followed him yet, you need to. My guy McNeil is Mark McNeil. The guy just loves to travel, so he's awesome. Like whenever he travels, he's always commenting, always posting funny, goofy stuff, and he created his own hashtag, the Moose is Loose, which is his nickname, or the what does he call himself? Some sort of bandit, the bakery bandit or something. I don't think he steals them, but just him ordering a bunch of stuff from the bakery and eating it. Like, the guy's just a clown in itself. So I'd say McNeil's is a good personality who I expect the PLL to start highlighting and helping grow his following to some extent.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we'll definitely try to help him out a little bit too. We're not nearly as big as the PLL, but we're working on it.
He loves the camera, so don't be afraid to get him on here. The guy's not camera shy one bit.
For sure. Maybe we'll have him do like an Instagram takeover. We're trying to do more of those, again, showcase the personalities. So that's what we're trying to do a little bit more of. But
for sure.
Number 4, what is your current lacrosse stick setup in terms of shaft, head, and stringing?
So right now, I actually just got a shipment from STX, which I'm super thankful for. Again, I'm not like one of the high profile guys, so I'll kind of take whatever I can get. But I have I don't even know what the head's called. I'm so like out of the loop. I have a STX Stallion, strung up. One of my guys back in Maryland, Woody Lack, strung it. So I was shooting with it this past weekend. It's pretty dialed in. And then I also have a East Coast Dives head, the Rebel. So those are the 2 heads that I have strung up right now. And I gave away my shaft, so I'm using a shaft that's not PLL sanctioned right now. But once the season comes about, and hopefully the league will send me a shaft or 2 to break in.
Yeah, no, awesome. And then number 5, what has been your favorite venue to play lacrosse at so far?
Man, the crowd at Albany was pretty wild, and I know that we sold it out. It was pretty awesome. I would say Albany or DC. I had a bunch of family and friends in DC. I thought the venue was sweet. I would love it if the PLL can go back there. Again, that venue would be awesome for like a night game or maybe like a playoff or championship game. So I would go Albany or DC.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't been to Aldi Field yet in DC. I moved right before they built it. I know they were building it when I was still living there, but my roommate actually went down for the DC Defenders game, and he said the stadium's like perfect for, like that type of environment, and the crowd really got into it. So that's on my wish list. If they do go back, I'm trying to get down to the DC one there. So yeah, I'm hoping they go back as well.
Yeah.
And now for the off the field questions. Number 1, what are some hobbies or activities you enjoy doing when you're not on the lacrosse field?
So when I'm out on the lacrosse field, I spend most of my time actually coaching. Myself and 2 other guys out in Arizona started a club team. So we're trying to grow the game of lacrosse, kind of like grassroots. Start with these young guys, and we have a high school team too, but really trying to grow the game from the younger guys up. We're called the Arizona Outlaws. We have a couple good teams. We're expecting to have a strong summer this year, going to 2 tournaments. So outside of lacrosse, it's more lacrosse, and then with being in the desert, I tend to go hiking a bit, hanging out by the pools. I also have a full-time job. I work for Stryker. It's a medical device company, so I'm obviously busy with work during the week, and then finding time to work out and catch a flight to games on the weekend.
And then number 2, who is a non-lacrosse athlete that you think would really excel on the lacrosse field?
Just off the top of my head, I was actually talking to Coach Tim McCormick about this from ASU. I was like, if you can get any of these NBA players to come play lacrosse, like the game would be crazy. I mean, you look at like a Miles Jones, the guy's just a physical specimen, but you look at guys like LeBron James or Giannis Antetokounmpo, and these guys are just freakishly athletic, that the game would be, who knows what the game would look like if you got some of these guys to come jump over and play. Or even you look at the NFL with like a Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson running at the midfield. Like it would be silly. It wouldn't be fair. So seeing some guys like that jumping over to play lacrosse would be wild.
Yeah, no, I'm a Ravens fan, so seeing a Lamar Jackson, on the lacrosse field would just like blow my mind. It would be awesome. But I think we're seeing too, like, the athleticism's there, and it's kind of cool to see too. Like everyone's kind of been disappointed with how like a JT Giles Harris and Dox Aiken and Jared Bernhardt are all like, going to play sports for a fifth year, kind of like Pat Spencer's doing. But I think it's a testament to the athletes we already have in the game as well. So, I think the more, like you said too, Coach Starsia talked about having multi-sport athletes on his team. I think, we're starting to get there, and I think, the sky's the limit with terms of people we can get to, continue to play the game.
For sure, and it just goes to, introducing the games to everyone, and the efforts that the PLL is doing with some of their partners, with Brooklyn Lacrosse, Coach Starsia, and his involvement with Harlem Lacrosse, and even just the way that Paul got started, the way that a lot of us got started was just handing a stick to your neighbor or your friend and saying, hey, come to practice with me, or like, hey, try this out. So I'm excited for the future of the sport. It's in good hands with Paul, Mike, and the PLL team, and I think the visibility that the PLL's providing on social media, and then their partner with NBC is the sport's really going to take off, and you're going to see a ton of passionate fans and a ton of people that are have never thought about the reality or being able to play professional lacrosse as an opportunity. So it's going to be a great experience, and I look forward to being a part of it in some way or the other.
Yeah, no, for sure. Number 3, what are some of your favorite places to go in Arizona?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's actually a really cool taco shop down in Phoenix called Beach House. It's a really cool taco spot, just like in the middle of the road, and then you can pull over and grab some awesome tacos. I went there with Matt McMahon 2 weeks ago, actually. So he was out here and he had a buddy, and they showed it to me. Other cool spots. Don't want to sound too bougie, but the W Hotel, they have an unbelievable pool on the rooftop, and it's a fun time. A lot of people convene over there. So touristy wise, there's a mountain called Camelback. My parents were out here last weekend and we hiked it. So Arizona has a lot to offer. It's an awesome place. If anyone's listening, college, high school, pro guys, and they were interested in moving to Arizona, reach out to me. I'll plug you into the network and get you fully ingrained. So trying to get more guys out here.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Growing the game out west. I love it. Kind of going off of that, you mentioned, food spot. What is your favorite meal, and do you prefer to dine out, take out, or cook at home?
Man, I've been eating a ton of Chipotle lately. I know that's like super, I don't know, basic or whatnot, but I've been crushing Chipotle. And then I've been also, just trying to eat healthier, which, part of that process is cooking food at home. So I'm pretty basic there. It's just mostly like ground turkey or ground beef and vegetables, rice, and that's really it. So a little plug here. I've been utilizing a company. One of my buddies put me onto. It's called Huel, and it's kind of like a meal replacement. So again, I work. So I work in the device industry, medical device industry. So trying to grab a meal isn't always accessible or feasible. So I kind of have been on the Huel train, and it's just 2 scoops. You mix it up with water, and it serves enough protein, carbs, and all that kind of good stuff for a meal. So that's what I've been on during the middle of the day.
Yeah, no, I've never tried them. I always get like ads for them, I feel like, on Instagram or whatever. I'm going to have to check them out, because I've kind of been finding that too. Like, I've been getting really busy, I feel like, just with work and everything, that I've been taking takeout a lot, and that's not something I want to do all the time. So I might have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, try them out. I'm sure now that we said it, that our devices are listening to us, so we'll be getting some targeted advertisements.
Yeah, no, for sure. And finally, number 5, what's a book that you've been reading or have read, or a podcast that you're listening to that you'd recommend to a teammate or a friend?
Man, okay, so my favorite book is The Alchemist. I just think it's a great book. I actually picked it back up a couple years ago, and I bought it. I have a hard copy. So I highly suggest The Alchemist to everyone and anyone. As I mentioned before, right now I'm reading Coach Starsia's book. I hope you will be very happy, and I think it's, again, pertainable to everyone. It has great leadership lessons, and for anyone that coaches or kind of in that realm, even just businesses, it makes you think about how you would want to form your own team or your own opinions. So that's another great one. And then I think David Goggins' book, I don't know if you read it. It's called Can't Hurt Me. It's phenomenal. I read it in a couple of days, and it just talks about his life and his path as a Navy SEAL, overcoming odds, and just kind of training your mind to think a certain way that nothing can stop you. So I would say those three books are kind of on top of the chain. And then podcast wise, Pro Lacrosse Talk.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, throwing you guys out there. But I listened to Paul's podcast is awesome. He has some great guys out there. So I haven't really committed to the podcast game too hard, but yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, I'll have to check out those books you mentioned. I've been reading Coach Starsia's, so the other two I'll have to check out. And he actually talked to us about that book before it came out when we got him on the podcast initially this summer. It was funny, he kind of dropped. He's like, "Oh, I have a book coming out," and we're like, "Oh, we didn't know that." We were researching, just doing our homework, and we didn't see that. He's like, "Oh yeah, we haven't really announced it yet." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, we got to talk to him. I got him to sign a copy at LaxCon. Yeah, no, it was kind of funny. Yeah, and we appreciate you listening. If you have any, advice for us, how we can take it to the next level, we appreciate the feedback. I know Paul does a great job with his Unbuckled Chinstrap. I used to listen to his Suiting Up all the time, so I'm glad that he's kind of continued that a little bit with the Unbuckled Chinstrap. So, yeah, there's a lot of great podcasts out there. I don't get to listen to all of them because, sometimes I'm producing, obviously, our own and then working and stuff. But I try to dabble a little bit in everything just to kind of, keep my nose to the ground.
Yeah, Joe Rogan's obviously great. Just the way that he thinks and kind of bringing in certain guests, and it's just I love listening to Joe Rogan as well. He puts all his stuff on YouTube too, and I think the way the podcast too, obviously no discredit to what we're doing or what other people do, but the fact that they record it, obviously for the podcast, but then they also record it so you can kind of see the interactions and facial expressions, and you can put it on YouTube. I think that's just super interesting as well. So
yeah, no, that's something we've talked about doing for a while. It's something that takes a little bit more time, but that's something that's definitely on my radar because I think that's kind of an untapped spot right now, especially with YouTube. It's easy to just go on YouTube. I think though there needs to be a platform that's kind of integrating both the visual medium and the audio medium because, like you said, some people are more visual and they want to watch something, but it's kind of YouTube's a great spot for it, but it's also, I feel like there needs to be more podcast specific platform with video. I don't know, that's kind of something I've had on my mind. I had a lot of ideas that kind of run through my head, but that was one thing I was thinking, it's kind of cool how you can get to subscribe and like people's podcasts and stuff and leave comments, and you can do that on YouTube, but it's still not really, YouTube isn't really tailored to the podcast game per se. So I don't know if anyone wants to steal that idea. I don't really have time for it. So kind of invent a podcast platform that is visual in nature. I think they could have a home run there. But yeah, I agree. That's something we definitely want to do with the podcast a little bit more. We've done a few of recordings of ourselves, but I think we're going to try to kind of get people maybe to Skype in a little bit more and get some more in-persons too. Obviously it's tough when we're on different ends of the country like we are right now, but that's what kind of I think that would help us take it to the next level, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, you guys got to make it out to a couple games and maybe grab some of us the night before or whatnot, maybe afterwards, and just some reactions or some questions,
That's definitely what we want to do going forward. Last season we kind of flew by the seat of our pants. We got out to a few games, but I think that's what we really want to do this season. Is kind of do what Spit and Chicklets does. They go to these events and they get these guys on the nights before or the days after. I think that's the goal. So yeah, for sure. That wraps up the 5 and 5, though. We always like to end on one final question, Pat, and that is, what is some advice that you have for a young player looking to one day play lacrosse professionally?
Man, I would probably just say that don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. And just having that mindset, there might be some odds against you, but, screw it, find a way. And, if you want something bad enough that, it'll be attainable. So, don't let anyone tell you can't do it.
No, that's great advice for especially our young listeners. Well, Pat, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on the show. Again, congrats on the terrific season with the Redwoods last season. You guys came up a little short, but I think you're poised to make another playoff run this season. And best of luck as you prepare for the 2020 PLL season.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. Go Redwoods.
If you enjoyed this interview, please leave us a review on Apple, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to follow us on social media at Pro Lacrosse Talk or visit our website, prolacrossetalk.com. And finally, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we hope you tune in next time to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code LACROSSE today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today.